I'm your host, John Cavendish, and welcome to the Amazon Strategy Show, the show that's all strategy with no hacks, no silver bullets, and no magic pills, just real practical strategies to grow your Amazon business. We have a treat today. We have a podcaster with a far more successful podcast than I. So, Michael started selling private label in 2014, and before starting his podcast in 2015 to share his journey. In 2016, he started coaching people one-on-one, and then the year later, launched his 10K Collective Mastermind to help established sellers in London move from 6 to 7 or high 7 figures. So without further ado, let's welcome Michael Veasley.
Thanks, John. Really good to be here. Nice to see you again. And on the other side of the mic, as it were, because last time I saw you, I think I was interviewing you for the Amazing FBA podcast. So quite cool to be here as a guest.
Or when we ran into each other last year, just in the corridor in White Label Expo in London.
Yes, a rare sighting of John in the European continent, I think. Yeah, absolutely.
That was awesome. So how did you get into Amazon? So back in 2014, did you see a course? Did you listen to podcasts? How did you hear about Amazon?
Basically a course, but it was unusual because I was part of a mastermind of people teaching coaches how to market themselves. And, I was trying to market myself as a singing coach. I think I'm a pretty decent singing coach for was, but was struggling to market myself. And then this guy basically pitched his entire sort of followership of a few hundred people that came to meetings into Amazon. And I guess he just got an affiliate fee from somebody to do ASM 3, I think it was. And so a ton of us joined at the same time, which was quite interesting. So it was a sort of mass conversion event. It was quite funny. So it wasn't something I've been considering before that, but it was obviously a vehicle for, trying to achieve the outcomes that we all want, freedom, financial success, and that sort of thing.
That was awesome. I didn't know you were going to be a singing coach. Do you sing like the intro to your podcast or...
I don't know. I mean, really, most singing coaches, including myself, are actually pianists. So, coach from the piano. So coach rather than a singer. So traditionally singers have a singing teacher, and at the high level, they're having a singing coach as well. So they work on repertoire and style and stuff. And the singing teacher tries to make the voice sound beautiful. So I don't really do much of that at the moment, but it's good fun. Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. And for ASM, I think they pay 50% commission of the 4 or 5 grand it was. So I'm sure the guy coaching might have made more money out of that than he did out of his other
absolutely
thing potentially. Because I know I joined through Ryan Moran's The Tribe thing back in ASM 4, and he must have made 180 grand or something like that out of each sign up. I was like, yeah, pretty good money just for pushing something to your list.
Yes, absolutely right. Yeah. So I don't think that, in other words, they were real e-commerce enthusiasts or dyed in the wool e-commerce people. So it was a sort of opportunist driven thing back in the day. I think that if anything, as the markets have got tougher and more competitive, I've seen that more people who are more committed to product development and, to generally being good at e-commerce, the people that stick in the market these days, which is probably a good thing, although it makes it tougher for everybody as well.
I get that. So running your masterminds, doing your coaching, like what do you see happening at the moment with this kind of downturn, recession going on?
Well, I mean, it's obviously affecting margins. So I'm seeing people that used to make 20% pre-tax profit, without, I suppose, operating profit. It's probably the main thing that you've got to manage to, right? I know that if you want to sell a business, it's a multiple of SDEs, seller discretionary earnings, or EBITDA. But broadly speaking, it's pre-tax profit plus, a bit of minus and plus. So that's the critical number to manage for, I think, in terms of business value. And I've seen people that have had 20% pre-tax profits or operating profits drop into sort of 10% level. So it goes through waves, but I think that's partly or mostly down to the reduced demand and slightly sharper price competition. Depends which market you're in. I mean, that particular person's focused on US, where I think you're seeing a sharper recession. I think you're going to see a sharper rebound, though. I mean, I think UK is sort of bumbling along, receding somewhat, and I don't know that I necessarily perceive that as changing as quickly backwards, back to good growth again. But we'll see what happens, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with that. I don't think the pain has actually come yet, but we will see what happens. Everyone still seems to have quite a lot of cash. Anyway, so when do people get a coach or a mentor?
It's a good question. I guess most people don't. I mean, I got a first coach when I'd done ASM 3 for quite a while and then was selling, and I found somebody within that community of people that was pretty successful and had her feet on the ground. and I wish I'd got one earlier. Really, it wasn't. In theory, it was part of the course we did, but it was like sort of 3 20-minute sessions with somebody who, to be honest, knew more about selling services than physical products, like everyone in that community, right? So most people don't get one at all, and I think that's an error, and it was true for me. And most people don't join a mastermind, I think partly because they don't know it exists. That's what several people have said when they joined, didn't know this kind of thing existed, which sounds odd to those of us who've been in multiple such things. But yeah, so that's probably actually most people don't at all. So it's an odd thing to say. I think input really helps. Like when you're on your own, trying to make decisions in the abstract, particularly strategy level ones. And it's so refreshing, John, that you're focusing on strategy, not hacks. I mean, that's so my bag. Those require a lot of deep thought about implications, and it really helps to have somebody else to think them through with, I think.
No, I agree. And yeah, you're right. Like being in this whole online business, internet marketery, coaching, consulting community for so long, I forget that people are entering this all the time. And people have never heard of masterminds, never heard of coaching, their first online business. And yeah, I mean, it's a different world, isn't it? So once you've been around a few circles, you see this stuff happen over and over again, but someone is always experiencing it for the first time.
And I think what's really important, and this is an experience I've had with several mastermind members now, some of the best and most established operators of businesses are not new to business at all. I mean, a couple of got multi-generational family businesses they've inherited or are working in, and they're really good at operations and physical products, but they're just new to Amazon specifically with the group that we focus on, or internet marketing in general. So that doesn't mean that naive business people, they just don't happen to this Amazon bubble that you and I suppose, have been in for the last few years. And I think it's important to distinguish that. So it's not like they're ignorant people. They just don't know about certain things. And those are my favorite clients because they're easy to help because, if they've got a really lousy Amazon listing, but they know how to develop products and get them sourced and they've got that all taped, that's a pretty easy person to help,
Yes, they already understand the metrics. You just need to tell them what are the right metrics for Amazon.
Yeah, something like that. And also they've nailed the operational side, which is not easy. I mean, delivering, a couple of clients have got, say 1,000 product lines and they've got their warehouse and they've got staff. Not everyone has to have that, but if they have got that and they've nailed, the ordering processes and production, doesn't mean that they can't be improved, of course, but they've got the basic mechanics in place. Whereas trying to get somebody to that point, as we all know, that's kind of painful. I mean, finding a good supplier in China, if you're starting from scratch, it takes a lot of work. And there's quite a few bumps in the road, and it's quite a sort of randomized process. They don't just do what they say they will, as we all know. So that takes quite a while to dial in. So this has got that dialed in, but they haven't dialed in a particular part of their business. Then easy to help. And to that point, really, I love a book by Goldratt called The Goal, which slightly implies that it's a goal-setting book, and it's not. I don't think it is really. It's about really, I suppose, the theory of constraints, but told through a story. It's a fantastic book, and the theory of constraints really is, boiling it down to the very, very basics is pretty simple, which is like the thing that's stopping your business growing the most is one particular area of the business. And if you unlock that, then that really enables the business to grow. So these days, that's more or less my philosophy. I look at the business as a system as a whole, which is definitely a strategy level view, not a tactical hack thing, by the way. And just say, where is it constrained? And quite often, if somebody's got enough capital and they're good at operations and their finances are in order, but they have lousy Amazon listings, well, it's sorting the listing out. And also then comes with market choice as well and keyword research. So that's not quite as simplistic as just sort the listing, but that is the biggest constraint, that if you unlock that can really enable cash to flow pretty quickly to enable you to, and then fix the next problem. And equally, some people are really beautiful brands, but their finances are a complete mess. And I'm not an accountant and I don't play one on the net, but I think what people don't do is the exceptionally simple, conceptually simple thing of 80-20 analysis, and look at their product lines and go, okay, which ones are losing me money? And I did that recently with a client who's mostly, he's wanting to move into private label. This is a one-to-one client. He's got quite a big reselling business. So he's sourcing wholesale. He's also got his own warehouse, quite small, but quite bedded in operation, and he's doing about $250,000 a year, and he's been doing it for several years. So you just assume that somebody like that was in a great place with their operations. But we did a product by product analysis, had to fight the system a bit to get that, along with seller board, and a little bit of work by his assistant. And it turns out fully 50% of his products weren't merely not doing much profit, they were losing money. It would have been cheaper to just not sell them, so he just stopped selling them. So he's cut his catalog from 400 units to 400 product lines to one. 100. And it's pretty simple. But again, in his business, the constraint to growth was not so much constraint as throwing fibers out of the window, just having the wrong products. And so I find that in this range of businesses from several hundred, a few 100,000 to a few million, there are often some really kind of on the strategy level, easy wins. You have to do some work to get the data, but once you've got it, then it's pretty clear what you need to do, and the results are fairly quick. So that's really rewarding. I love that kind of work.
Oh, that's awesome. And it's really cool that you can do that, dive deep and see that the 80-20 of what's making money, what's losing money, what needs to be doubled down on. And what was the name of that book?
The book was The Goal by Goldratt. I think it's Goldratt. So he was an Israeli mathematics professor, I think, or something very academic, but also did consulted. Very cool book.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I never heard of him before. Sounded like a rapper.
Yes, from the 80s. It does sound a bit like a rapper, I guess. Yeah, it's from the 1980s. But fantastic book. Really, really conceptually strong. Definitely recommend it to anyone who's got the chops to work through it. Really
cool. Yeah, we should have book recommendations on the podcast. We don't do that now, but I would love that because I like book recommendations. So with Amazon, you've looked at the metrics, you've done your 80-20. Like, what do you think is the secret to successful marketing on Amazon? The secret.
The secret to successful marketing. I did an interview yesterday with a guy who's actually only just getting onto Amazon, but just to give him a shout out, there's Jake Rosenberg. He's got a brand called Crete, which is about 30-second skincare, and it was for men as well. Now, so I think that backing off Amazon for a second, I think the secret is not really a secret so much as just a willingness to take massive trouble and really, really care about something. And I think this is the huge difference between reselling other people's products, managing somebody's account for them, and developing your own products. So I've made a conscious decision, and it's kind of embarrassing to admit it as a sort of private label specialist, but I'm no longer going to be developing products because I just don't care enough about that part of businesses. Whereas I care a lot, as you can tell, I'm quite passionate about business systems and the business as a system as a whole. So somebody in the business has to really, really care about a particular avatar's problem, a customer type problem, and develop and be fairly obsessive with developing the right product. Another one that you may know through Ryan Daniel Moran circles, Jason Franciosa, they developed what I think is a weightlifting belt, and that's such a generic thing on Amazon that's so driven by price competition for years now. And they came in, and his business partner's got a PhD in physiotherapy or physiology or something like that. So he's got a really, really, really strong, the body, exactly, and a very specific medical knowledge. And they've developed a fantastic weightlifting belt. And those guys are busy going to CrossFit conventions, and they are absolutely obsessive CrossFitters, as tends to be the case with CrossFitters. So that's another example of really caring about being somewhat obsessive with a particular type of customer and their particular needs that aren't being well served by the market, and then really, really deep diving into making an amazing product. I mean, Jake, who developed the skincare cream because he is in a skiing accident when he was in his late teens and got a really visible scar on his nose, but he would buy 40 of the competitor products and obsessively break down every aspect of it, like the color of the glass and why is amber good. And it turns out that it keeps it, the ingredients fresh for longer, so you have a longer shelf life, and all the implications of all the details. So, that's not a very sexy answer because it's a heck of a lot of work. But I think if you've done that work as a prelude to getting into Amazon, then you have a much bigger chance of success, really.
Oh, I love it. Care. Summarize one word.
Yeah. Actually care about something. Yes, I think it's so important. And if you don't, just don't bother going into the market, because you can make sales, but you won't make profits. And I think that's where Amazon deludes us all. If you have your own website of any description, including Shopify or whatever, you have the crickets problem. Like, nobody sees it, nobody cares. If they turn up, they don't buy. On Amazon, there's the traffic and there's amazing conversion rates. And so because you can get sales relatively easily, you can really delude yourself that the market cares about your stuff until you sit down with your accountant and break down the profit and realize that they don't really, because they're just paying just about break even if you're lucky, or loss making if you're unlucky.
Yeah, I mean, that's our fault as the business owners, because they didn't set the price, we set the price.
I guess that's true. Yes.
Like, maybe they care, maybe they don't care, but anyway, we effed up on setting the price and doing our calculations.
We did, or we effed up on giving people a reason. And well, that's what I would say is that in some ways the market determines the price. But if you want to get a price premium, i.e., a little bit on Amazon, probably a little bit more than the market, you have to have a really strong, compelling difference about the product that they care about to actually get that price premium. And also, if you choose to go into a market that's incredibly big, it's going to be very, very expensive and hard to get visibility. And that's another thing to your point about what certain secrets to Amazon marketing. Go into a market that is proportionate to your budget. If you have £50,000 or dollars to launch into a market, don't go into a market where there's several million dollars a year, month rather, being made, because it's going to be so hard to crawl your way to any visibility for any significant keywords. That's just not really a starter for me.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And you'll never be able to afford your way to spend your way to the top.
Not really, yeah, unless you have very deep pockets.
Or like differentiation, as you said, that really sets your product apart, and it's so much better than the competition. And you can somehow demonstrate that within the first second.
Yeah, something like that, exactly. Yeah.
Like you click on it. Yeah, this is why I want to click on it. Yeah. So, is there anything else you think people should be really concentrating on and know about product development, the mastermind? I don't think anything else you want to really get across.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about the mastermind in a second. I suppose I would refer back to Alex Hormozi says another great business book that's nothing to do with e-commerce specifically, which is $100 million offers. It's actually free. So the audiobook and the Kindle book are free. And I'm not an affiliate of his. I just love the book. So he says, yeah, very good book. So he says, look, if the choice of market is critical. However, you can make a lot of money in an average market if you have an incredibly strong offer. So I think it's good to approach things in that direction. So first of all, pick a market that is you've got a chance of winning in and that you care about. And by the way, if you really don't care about it, don't be driven by the numbers. If you're doing retail arbitrage or wholesale sourcing, you can be driven by the numbers because you don't have to develop the product, right? The brand does the heavy lifting of building customer trust. You need to be driven by numbers. You need to be operationally driven. And I know people are very good at that. And if that's your bag, do that thing. But don't try and develop your own product in a market you don't care about. So you should be conscious of the numbers, but above all, you should care about the market. That's the first thing. So that's the market choice. The second thing is, to your point, an amazingly strong offer. And I would sort of almost reverse engineer from the offer to the product, just as Jeff Bezos at Amazon used to insist. Before you develop a new product or feature for Amazon, you have to write the press release. So in other words, you think about how you're going to sell this, then think about whether you're going to develop the actual product with the differentiation features built in. So I think it's really important to think about how you're going to sell something, then go and develop something that's incredibly sellable, and then tell people what you've done. That's so the marketing and the product development, in other words, have to be all of a piece if possible. So those are the two sort of orders that you need to do things in, if you like. First of all, pick a market that's a wise choice and that you care about a lot, and then secondly, develop a product with the marketing in mind. And then the marketing should be fairly easy. You just articulate the differences that you've built into the product in the first place, really. So people don't tend to follow that. They follow the numbers and go, oh, there's $5 million being made in this market per month on Amazon. If it's a really big US market. To which my response is, yeah, $5 million being made by somebody, but what makes you think you can take a significant piece of that pie? And that's the question. How are you going to do that? That's always the critical.
Yeah, totally in agreement. So did you want to share a little bit about the masterminds?
Yeah, sure. So the masterminds. So masterminds, as you say, has been in existence since 2017. So we serve quite a specific, very, very specific avatar. So for me, that's a nightmare for marketing because it's hard to find people that fit that. So it's UK or European-based sellers selling private label or custom products. Some of the people in the mastermind sort of resell other people's products, but are working towards or developing as part of their revenue their own private label or custom products. And yeah, it's that 6 to 7 transition really. So people have normally got the basics in place and they're looking to, grow, strengthen the business. So the way it works is relatively straightforward and it's not sexy. Like you have some big guru who's made 9 figures a year and tells you this is the secret, which always seems to have a market for selling. It's more about, what do you need right now? And then what do your peers know about this? And it turns out that's really powerful. So we have a hot seat twice, every 2 months rather in person in London and then online in between on Zoom. and you just tell us what you want, what your needs are. In other words, what your wins are recently, which can be really inspiring for everyone else, and what your challenges are. And then we'll clarify, are we really answering the right question, which is a really important nuance, and then plunge in with some advice or experience. Oh, I've done that. Don't do that. This went horribly wrong, or no, don't do that at all. It worked really badly for us. It's just really valuable. You can short circuit months of experimentation by seeing somebody else's experiments and go, oh yeah, that's not a good thing to do. Or wow, that worked really well. I wonder if we could do that in our business. So it got built into it, sort of peer group accountability, which means that you naturally have a bit of friendly competition. You think, I could do that. What, that person's killing it. Why can't I do that? And that's really helpful motivation in a very organic way as well. Nobody has to say that. You just kind of naturally, if you're an entrepreneur, probably have a little bit of one-upmanship in your DNA somewhere, and want to do better than the next guy or gal, and that really helps. I think over time, people do sort of level up.
No, I agree with that, and not just through masterminds, but through like networking or listening to podcasts. You have that you can have that experience that, oh, that guy is definitely no smarter than me, and he's or she is achieving that. So there's no reason I can't achieve that, because this person is definitely not that smart, or this person definitely hasn't got any advantage that I have above them. Maybe their advantage is they're not that smart, so they did it. So I like those experiences.
Yeah,
when you see that and then you take action, it's cool. So before we go into the game, is there anything else you wanted to share with the audience?
Yeah, it just depends what the audience is, really. I mean, I suppose you're the strategist show, and I think that's kind of undervalued in the e-commerce space and just generally in internet marketing, really. I guess the clue is that internet marketing is kind of a field, but actually marketing is one function among several critical ones in the business. So if you're good at marketing, in my experience, chances are you're not amazing at your back-end operations and getting your finances in order. I would urge you to do that. Talk to your accountant more often than you do. Excuse me. Equally, if you are pretty good at that stuff and your listings allows you know what to do, that's kind of more of a commodity and easier to get, I reckon. But I mean, just go and be willing to look at the stuff in your business that isn't working. So if you look at the parts of your business that aren't working, get some help with it. Sometimes when you've got an established business, that can be where the growth is going to come from. And the nice thing is that you're removing a constraint. So the growth might be fairly quick once you've removed that. You don't have to build a bunch of extra product lines necessarily to make more cash. And that's a beautiful thing when you can find that.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you for sharing. So on every show, we want to give back something to our listeners. So we have some awesome prizes up for grabs. If you want to enter to win these prizes that we'll announce next week, or any of the prizes going forward, you can enter at the link that'll be below this video, or maybe be on screen right now, depending on our post-production, what happens. Mike has very kindly put forward 2 prizes. First one being 1 month of free one-to-one consulting via Zoom, which is worth a lot of money, $500 US, or however many pounds the exchange rate says right now. And the second prize being several $100s, somewhere between, depending on in hyperinflation in the US, somewhere between 500 and 5,000. So number 2, 1 month's free mastermind membership for the sellers that qualify. And as Michael said, you need to be very specific to qualify. So if you do qualify, maybe drop us a message and we'll figure out how to get you in, because you need to be able to get to London, which is very specific. So do drop me or Vivian, our producer, a message. And then still on the wheel, we have many amazing prizes. We have a CrewMe, Amazing FBA, Arm Agency, Canopy Management, Ecom Balance Credit, Eva Guru. We have lots and lots of stuff on the wheel. So please do enter if you're interested in winning any of that. All right, so producer, please bring up the wheel. So Michael, you are in control. By in control means you have to say it. Yeah, exactly. Now all you need to do is spin that wheel and the wheel will spin. You can sing it.
All right.
It's voice control.
Okay, I'm seeing the wheel spinning. That looks good to me.
Is it spinning? I can't see if it's spinning. I don't see it spinning. All right, I'm gonna try, see if it works. Spin that wheel. Can you see it spinning, Michael?
I can, and it's landed on Seller Candy.
The internet has just disintegrated. I see nothing.
Really? Okay, well, I can tell you that you owe a $400 reimbursement. Yes, congratulations.
I got the back. Thank you. So $400 from Seller Candy. I don't know. That's the second time this has come up today. Second try. All right, Michael, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, okay. Spin that wheel.
So Shanfu, I am told, because I can't see it spinning. So it's a free audit from Shanfu. So that's from Trivium. Mina, I saw Mina last week in Vegas. So yeah, congratulations to everyone on that. Trivium are an awesome ad management agency, and they will do a free 30-minute video walkthrough of your pros and cons for recommendations for your PPC campaigns. So awesome. All right, let's get rid of the wheel. All right. Sorry about that, Michael. All right. So one last chance. Do enter with the link below if you want to win. So we always ask our guests one question, which is, what's one strategic element you think most people are missing when selling on Amazon?
Good question. It's going to vary, really. I would say if I could have two, then I would say most people are either good at sort of operations and bad at marketing, or good at marketing and bad at operations. That's not absolutely universally true, but it's pretty common. So the one missing element, I think I mentioned it already, for those who are good at marketing, is really being on top of your numbers. And it's absolutely critical. Like if you just hand it off to your accountant and just ignore it, then you are basically, it's almost like driving along with your eyes shut. I mean, it's just this insanely bad idea. And here's why. I mean, the amount of money that's tied up in product in the business model of physical products, which I guess most of your listeners are in, is really, really huge. So you have to be on top of the numbers. It's not like selling, marketing, digital products, or mentoring one-to-one for that matter, where you've got virtually no cost of goods sold. So you have to be on top of the numbers. And then the other way around, if you are really more comfortable with numbers and operations, which is less common, but is certainly for established businesses the case, and you have to be willing to dive into fluffy concepts like customer avatars and, psychographics, what are the values of your potential buyers and stuff, and just be willing to deal with that fluffy stuff and work with some marketing people who are probably not your bag and not your taste. And that's too bad, because otherwise your business is missing out hugely. So those are the two really missing things that I see.
Awesome. So one last thing then, if people want to follow you and stay in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
Best thing is to subscribe to the podcast. So Amazing FBA. Just find it on any podcast app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, whatever the normal places are. You can also look on YouTube if you want to subscribe there. It's not really geared as exciting YouTube videos, so it's probably going to be more rewarding as an audio experience, but we have mostly interviews with great guests like John Cavendish. So we have very, very good people on. So I'm very confident of the value of the information, because most of it doesn't come from me.
Okay, awesome. So if everyone go and follow Michael on his socials and ignore my weird facial expressions when I am hearing 5 seconds after he finishes, that will be awesome. And that brings us to the end of the episode. So thanks, Michael, for joining us. And I hope tonight's episode was very beneficial for everybody listening. As always, thank you for listening to the Amazon Strategist Show. If you did enjoy the show, please do like us on whatever platform you're watching it, subscribe, comment, review, and come back next week for another discussion. Until then, I'm John Cavendish. This is Michael. And thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. It's been a real pleasure.